Good evening, brave souls. Tonight we venture into a tale of terror that will grip your heart and haunt your dreams. Jake Turner gripped the steering wheel as rain pounded on his windshield like an endless wave. The storm had rolled in out of nowhere, turning the peaceful drive into a nightmare. His daughter, Lucy, had called him earlier, her voice shaky, saying she was stranded in a small, unfamiliar town. He had jumped into his car without a second thought, racing through the darkness to reach her. "Just hold on, Lucy. I'm coming," Jake whispered to himself, the only sound in the car, aside from the rain and the distant rumble of thunder. The road stretched before him, winding through thick woods. His headlights barely cut through the heavy downpour, and each turn felt more treacherous than the last. The GPS had stopped working miles ago, leaving him to trust his instincts. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A figure stood by the side of the road, drenched from the rain. Jake's heart skipped a beat. A woman, pale and shivering, stood under a flickering street lamp. Against his better judgment, he slowed down and rolled down the window. "You shouldn't be out here," the woman said, her voice soft, but filled with urgency. Her eyes, wide and haunted, locked with his. "Turn back. There's danger ahead." "What do you mean? My daughter is out there. I need to get to her," Jake replied, anxiety bubbling in his chest. The woman didn't blink, her face pale as the moon hidden behind the storm clouds. "There's something in the woods. It's calling for help, but it's not what it seems. Be careful." Before Jake could ask more, she turned and disappeared into the night. Shaken, Jake drove on, the woman's words echoing in his mind. What was she talking about? He didn't have time to figure it out. Lucy needed him. But just as he rounded the next bend, his headlights illuminated something that made his blood run cold. A figure stood in the middle of the road, waving its arms frantically. It looked like a man, soaking wet and calling out for help. "Help me," the voice cried, the sound sharp and desperate. Jake slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the wet asphalt. The figure didn't move. Jake's hands trembled as he gripped the wheel. He remembered the woman's warning. It's not what it seems. Against his instincts, Jake pressed the gas, swerving around the figure. The man's scream echoed behind him, chilling. But as Jake glanced in the rearview mirror, the road was empty. The figure was gone. "What the hell?" he muttered, heart racing. He was starting to regret ever leaving the house. As Jake drove deeper into the woods, the storm grew worse. The wind howled, shaking the trees, and the rain came down in sheets, making it almost impossible to see. He was about to pull over when the road forked. The left path led into an even darker section of the forest, while the right looked slightly more navigable. Jake hesitated, his fingers tightening on the wheel. "Which way?" he asked himself, glancing between the two options. A crackle of lightning lit up the sky, revealing a shadow at the edge of the left path. It was that same man, waving again, only this time his face was twisted in agony. Without thinking, Jake sped down the right path. The trees seemed to close in around him as he pressed forward, and every bump in the road felt like the world shaking beneath him. But then, just as his panic reached its peak, the storm suddenly cleared. The rain lightened, and the wind died down. Ahead, he could see the faint lights of a small town. Relief washed over him as he spotted Lucy's car parked at a rundown diner by the side of the road. She was standing outside, waving to him, soaked but safe. "Dad!" she called out, her voice filled with both fear and relief. Jake parked the car and rushed over to her, pulling her into a tight hug. "I'm so glad you're okay," Jake said, his voice shaky. "Let's get out of here." As they climbed into the car, Lucy frowned. "Dad, did you see anyone out there?" "I thought I saw someone watching me from the trees." Jake's heart sank. He didn't want to scare her, but he couldn't ignore what had happened. "Let's just get home. I don't want to stay here any longer." As they drove away, Jake glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. In the distance, under the dim glow of a street lamp, he saw the same woman from earlier, standing still, watching them drive away. Her words echoed in his mind. "There's danger ahead." Jake never drove at night again.